We're going to get started. Welcome and thanks for joining today's Industry Insights webinar. My name is Jenny Ramos and I'm a marketing specialist here at Litera Microsystems. In case you didn't know, we host the Industry Insights series every month, highlighting trends and issues within the legal space. This month's session is extra timely, coming off the heels of ILTACON. 2 weeks ago, the Litera Microsystems team sent a large team to the event, and today's speaker, Sherry Kappel, was part of the team that braved the heat of Orlando in the summertime to see the latest and greatest in legal tech. Sherry is an industry veteran, a member of our evangelist team, and one of my favorite team members here at Litera. While Sherry was at ILTACON, if she wasn't in or leading a session, she was talking to attendees about the challenges and priorities facing law firms. All these insights and conversations were gathered together to form today's session, an ILTACON review and recap. Just some general housekeeping, our webinar will run 30 minutes with time at the end dedicated to addressing questions and comments. So whether you attended ILTACON in person or read things about the event, we'd like to hear more about your experience. You can enter any comments, ideas, or questions into the questions window on your screen at any time during the presentation. Sherry will answer as many as she can in the time allotted for the Q&A. And with that, I'll pass it over to Sherry to talk about what she learned at ILTACON. Sherry?
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Steve. Thank you to everyone attending today. One item that I want to point out before we begin is that there is really so much to share that we've provided you with not one, but 2 handouts. So in that little chat-like panel on the right, click and expand the item that says handouts, and you can download the assets that will support our conversation today. So to review what we're going to cover, I first organized around what were the top themes that we heard at the conference. So whether it was in sessions or it was sitting down and networking with a group of folks or in our conversations within our demo room, what were the top themes we heard at conference? Then I've got a special section all about the session highlights. In fact, one of the handouts relates to that section. And then I think it was really important for us to review with you, recap with all of you, what were the Litera events and the insights we gathered there, some really great stories that we have to share. So let's begin. So the top themes of the conference this year at ILTACON 2019, I felt I needed to sort of set the stage, and this was one of the, I believe, one of the assets of this particular venue is that we got to be in both of those different buildings. In addition, we had a number of events at some other spots on the resort. But the really wonderful thing was that you got to get outside and get some fresh air. And the exhibit hall was just cavernous. It was a great space. The numbers, though, tell, I think, the additional side of this story. The fact that ILTACON broke records for the most attendees ever, up some 120 or so from last year even. I think it's remarkable that of those attendees, 800 of the folks who attended were first-time attendees. They got to wear a special little ribbon, a blue ribbon, so they were shall we say, the people that you sought out everywhere to welcome them to the conference and the conference experience. There were 200 exhibitors in the exhibit hall, and just everything from startups to long time vendors in this space, such as us. And so there was just plenty of conversation and new capabilities that you could discover and explore there. In addition to that, in a whole nother part of the arena there were 200 sessions with as many, if not more, speakers. And I'm going to feature some of those in our second section. 25 countries were represented by the attendees. So I loved how Joy referenced this in one of the recent articles she noted, that in fact she was saying that we put the I back into ILTA, the international aspect, which is great. In addition, there was certainly a sentiment that a lot was being invested in legal tech, not only by our organizations, by our firms, but by the innovation that was coming out of this particular space. One other event that occurred here was that Bob Ambrogi posted right after the conference ended. He posted a roundup of all of the legal technology awards that were awarded. It was a fantastic assembly of people, both for the peer awards that were awarded by the ILTA organization, but in addition, Bob was also one of our judges, he featured all of the Changing Lawyer Award winners that Litera awarded. So you can read more about that there. But the backdrop in terms of the themes, the topics of conversation throughout the conference is where I want to go next. I can't think of a year in the 22 I've attended where the keynotes were so on point and so rich in terms of inspiring everyone each and every day. The three that happened Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were harnessing innovation. The gentleman who presented this has written a number of books, certainly been deeply involved in harnessing innovation. And his key message is that innovations don't have to be big. The little things add up and the little things are important. And he encouraged that. The corollary, if you will, on the next day's session was the disruption that innovation causes and how we manage that. That panel was so awesome. It had someone from a client side, a corporate legal firm. It had Janet Day leading the panel. It had someone representing a vendor. It was just a fantastic conversation. And then finally, there was a leading through change discussion, all about how you manage personalities while you are managing change. So again, fascinating topics. I would highly encourage you to check them out. I think the other observation that I wasn't the only one who had this, but I was so impressed at how balanced this year's series of sessions and basically the representation even of attendees were. You saw everything from core IT really strengthening its chops with great programming to an entire day devoted to litigation support, a number of sessions devoted to Law Firm 101, introducing perhaps new people who have just moved into legal, introducing them to what exactly is the business of law and how it's unique from some of the organizations they may have come from, a fabulous series of sessions. There were so many communities of, we used to call them birds of a feather, but communities of interest that met and collaborated at the end of the conference and throughout. And so the community's presence was deeply felt. And I think that one of the biggest takeaways was the representation of vendors as partners in every facet of this conference, including the fact that certain of the vendors were awarded awards that would have formerly been eligible only to member firms. And so this vendors as partners really created a fantastic community throughout the conference from start to finish. Innovation was probably one of the most key themes of the entire thing. Everything from AI and blockchain to knowledge management, roles, responsibilities, tools, conversations that spoke about innovating around the law firm. AI-driven learning was a really huge topic, and an entire series on disruption and how we need to perhaps reorganize and design our teams to align to that. And so this whole facet, again, another key theme. I think I put this as its own category, Microsoft, because clearly Microsoft's platform is the productivity solution at the heart of all of what we do. And so all of the sessions that were around Office 365, Windows 10, adoption of Microsoft Teams, the related security and compliance. They were meaty sessions. And as a matter of fact, the Office 365 series, there were 3 sessions. Not only were each of those 3 sessions in the top 20 most attended sessions at conference, but it was the highest attended series at ILTACON 2019. So certainly all of us are seeing this adoption and groundswell, this need for information and insight, and ILTACON delivered wholeheartedly to anyone coming there to seek out that kind of insight and expertise. Remember my comment about vendors as partners. As I mentioned earlier, I have attended ILTACON for 22 years. Members, however, have been the only ones eligible to receive the coveted little alumni ribbon at the bottom of my badge. And yet this year, that eligibility, we were made to feel like members, because we now too, as long as we've attended 10 ILTACONs or more, we too get to proudly wear the alumni badge. And so for this, I really want to say hats off to ILTACON for really breaking down some of those barriers. It was welcome, I think, on all sides. So now I want to move into quickly the session highlights. So individual sessions, or perhaps session series. And this is going to be a bit of an eye chart, just want to warn you. However, this is the one-page handout, one of the PDFs that you've downloaded. What I did was I took the top 20 most attended sessions. I've annotated that in that notes column you'll see on the right. And equally, all of the post-ILTACON press, videos, interviews, links that I could get my hands on that showcase how each of these sessions, these sessions that were not only in the top 20, but really were the whole entire lineup of ILTACON, anything that inspired further conversation after, I've given you a fantastic list of links to learn by. My favorite category here were all of the takeaways, the observations various people provided, and I encourage you maybe not to go through all of them, but certainly pick a category of them and really it's great study. I do want to mention, though, that this is such early days. Of the 200 sessions, there do remain a number of sessions whose recordings are not yet posted, or whose additional assets and downloads are not yet posted, but keep checking back, because they will indeed be there in the next few weeks. Finally, I wanted to point out an extra little kind of kudo to one of our partners, Kraft Kennedy. During this conference, I learned about this because on my panel at the Office 365 Adoption Series, it was the second session in the series. At that particular session, Joe from Kraft Kennedy presented, and one of the things I learned was that they delivered an entire session and a fantastic blog post about something that we're all going to have to study up on, and that is Azure Information Protection, otherwise known as AIP. Do give that a read. If you see them come to a town near you, it's a fantastic topic to learn more about. And in addition, it was so cool. Kraft Kennedy not only did that session, but they also, instead of making you all carry around papers and jump to links and such, what they did was they set up a Microsoft Office 365 flow, and all you did was you submitted your name and email address, and then it sent you all of the materials from any of the sessions or any of the conversations they had with you. So cool innovation, and gave me a great couple of use case ideas for Flow, which I wish, of course, I would have had prior to our session. But in any event, it was all very exciting. And so hopefully, I think, not hopefully, you will find value in everything in that handout. All right, so let's get on to the Litera events and our insights. We had the most incredible, our marketing team outdid themselves. We had the most incredible series of events, both each night, each day at the close of conference, and this happens to be an image taken from our company briefing, in which we announced the 2 recent acquisitions that we had made of Workshare and of Doxly, and how we had established this now first draft to truly final delivery. And so this is an image of the venue in which we hosted it. It was a well-attended event, certainly, again, got the conversations going. And there were several themes, among them to simplify, that bringing a platform together and consolidating all of these capabilities from a single vendor, how that will simplify things for our end users, bring happiness about, because things will be so much more streamlined for them, but also for us on the IT side. We also had a booth. Our booth, we managed to bring together the Workshare booth with our booth and the Doxley folks all in one kind of mega booth, really, and spoke with so many people about how all of these changes, we were going to be simplifying the workflow for their users, and great things to come. So it was a really hopping place, as it were. In addition, and I know this image does not reflect how busy the demo room is, except if you were to imagine every one of those stations filled, plus additional chairs, that was what it was like for 3 solid days. It was such a great little location because not only was it not far away from things, but we had such wonderful conversations with people, had a little nice quiet place for people to go and to learn more about our products. One of the interesting comments I got when I was there was in the demo room was this one gentleman. I asked him, hey, what sessions did you go to that were really good and informative? And he said, I find the value in sitting down and talking with vendors like all of you. And I thought that was a really interesting comment, that some folks have a charter at ILTACON, which is, let's go talk with all the vendors. Let's, see what is everyone's roadmap. And so again, we created a great space in which to do that. Hundreds of conversations and sessions were held in this room. The other thing that we did at the conference was we released the 3rd volume of The Changing Lawyer. This is what the cover looks like. If you didn't get a copy, reach out to your account executive, your customer success manager, request one. A fabulous addition to that series of publications. We also awarded at our briefing the Changing Lawyer Awards. This is our 2nd year for that. These are the winners. I think that Janet Day is one of the ones that sort of stood out for me. She is the one that led the 2nd day keynote that I mentioned earlier. But indeed, the Law Firm of the Year, Course Chambers from Australia, the Legal Innovator of the Year, Michael Kaplan at Goodwin, and the Disruptor for the Year, Lex Machina. Fantastic group of winners. So read more about them on our website. We also hosted a number of VIP events, everything from bringing together knowledge managers from across the legal community to wine tasting for CIOs. We had a nice viewing of the fireworks of going on over at Epcot Center. So we really brought together some networking. And in fact, to that end, in terms of knowledge management, one of the things we heard at our KM dinner was how these kinds of events, bringing that group, this select group of people together, helped people realize that they weren't alone in their role, that there's a whole community around them, and that by raising this profile and raising this conversation, they admitted that their roles have gained more responsibility and more visibility within their firm, to the extent that KM can very often be at the heart of innovations that are occurring around a law firm. In addition, speaking about the tools that the legal tech of a law firm that can support the KM function, such as, for example, Clause Companion. We also, as a result of the additions of Workshares, Transact, and Doxley, we created an amazing amount of buzz such that transaction management became one of the top conversations throughout the show. And you can find out more about this and the workflow image you see here at the link I've provided. We've just put that page up on our website. So again, to learn more about that. And finally, one of the top conversations was the message of simplifying, that by simplifying, we can bring happiness to our end users. And that is such a good thing. We earn adoption, we earn, again, a partnership with them. So to simplify everything. So again, just to reiterate the top takeaways, please take advantage of that session download set of links that I provided. In addition, the whole entire ILTACON session download. There's a recording of the sessions, handouts, etc. Keep checking back if they aren't there. Keep these top conversations I've mentioned going with us and with your own colleagues at your own firm. And always bring happiness by simplifying the technology we bring. Next, I did want to mention really quickly what our next webinar is about. It's about solving the dupe and revise of work product, and it's using Clause Companion and some of the new capabilities we announced at ILTACON. You can register at the link below. You can register under the website registrations on our under the webinars registration link on our website. And now I think Steve and Jenny, we are ready for questions.
Yes, we are ready for questions. Thank you, Sherry, for all your awesome insights. Excellent as usual. The first question, as a reminder, if you have questions, you can input those into the questions box at any time. One of the things we wanted to start with was actually just a question from our internal team. So really, Sherry, just getting from you, what do you feel like was the most inspiring or surprising session that you attended, and why?
Wow, that's an important question because I was surprised. So I don't know if, you know, most of you might realize that the vendor hall closes at about noon on Thursday. And so anyone who has a session on Thursday afternoon, I always want to go and support, because so many people are gone by that point that, you know, the attendance can sometimes be a little disheartening. But this was the session, Steve, that I went to. It was a session sponsored by the enterprise architecture community. And what they did was an entire discussion about the release to the ILTA community of the reference model for enterprise architecture. So any one of you who've ever seen the EDiscovery reference model, you'll know the kind of humble beginnings of this. But basically what it is it's a law firm capability model for how it is they support technology, or how technology, supports each of these different aspects of running a law firm. And they went through in fantastic detail about how you might use the model. They put it out for conversation, so please go to the community and download the information, listen to the recording. It was an exceptional session. Mark from Faegre Benson was there, Baker Daniels, and a gentleman, Tom from White and Case, Ryan from Sherman and Sterling. It was a fantastic conversation about a model that we can all use and leverage. It was great. But like I said, it was on Thursday, and it was really sad there were not enough people there. There should have been more.
Well, they're going to be grateful to you, Sherry, for giving them the cliff notes here. So that's awesome. Thank you for including that. Let's see, our next question comes from Sarah, and she asked, there was a lot of buzz about the enhancements in transaction management, which you mentioned, Sherry. What's one or two things that legal technologists and lawyers should keep an eye out for?
So I think I think number one, I listened to the interview that Above the Law did with Haley, our general manager for transaction management at Litera. And Haley indicates that the thing we may not realize as technologists is that for the lawyers, that whole closing process, signature gathering process, there are so many pain points in it that when you show transaction management solutions such as Doxley and Transact to a lawyer, they just get it, and they just realize how much it will take the pain out of it and get them to focus on, be able to focus on higher value work. So I kind of encourage you to listen to Haley's comments, but to me, you need to see it. You need to see it, and you need to make sure your lawyers see it. and it really will streamline that process from first draft to final delivery. I think on the additional end of that, though, Steve, I think that the opportunity for innovation and for building a platform that is cohesive from first draft to final delivery is just enticing. And so really looking forward to what we'll bring forward to the community a year from now.
Awesome. Great, then we have one more question for you, Sherry. Let's see, this one comes from Ben, and he asks, what made this year's ILTACON distinct from years past?
Oh, goodness. Well, each year always is unique. But I believe for this one, it was the elevation of every conversation. The elevation of every conversation and the number of roles and the number of individuals, both first timers and long time attendees, how we've been able to elevate the conversation around the strategic design of legal technology and how it's used, how it's managed, how it's leveraged within a law firm, elevated conversations on every single topic.
Yeah, elevation, always a good conference theme. Sherry, there was a request from Susan. Could you just reiterate the name of the podcast you mentioned featuring Haley?
Sure, it's in the Excel handout and it's from Above the Law. Again, the link is in the handout, so if you check it out, I put Haley's name in that one handout of links, and you can link right to it. It's a little short, maybe 3.5-minute video, and all kinds of experience behind the scenes there, Steve, because she's standing on the ILTACON exhibitor floor. So lots of activity going on too, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I watched the beginning half of it. It's a great session. So that's our last question, Sherry. So with that, we'll kind of wrap things up. One more plug for yes, there are 2 handouts that you guys can download from the GoToWebinar console. It's the slides from today's presentation, and then the master list of resources that Sherry's compiled for you all. If you're interested in seeing what other webinars, Sherry did mention the one we have coming up that talks about Clause Companion. That'll be later this month. But if you'd like to get the full roster and sign up for those, you can go to those at litera.com/webinars. So just thanks one more time to Sherry for sharing your insights with us, and thanks to all of you for joining. We hope we'll see you on another webinar soon, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.